Well, it's certainly been a while, hasn't it?
Too long, I think.
Yeah. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy IV. It's been about a year at this point, but it's time we finally go back for that post-game interlude combo, just so we can show my favoritism of this game and get it out of the way. Now, as you might be able to tell based off the save data there, I was busy between parts, so to speak, in that not only did I beat the final boss the extra times you need to in order to access everyone's trial in the Lunar Ruins, but I also went all out in terms of grinding. I got everyone, initially trying to get them up to their 70s, but I ended up getting them mostly towards their 80s, just due to certain people always being in the party or not. And also got a shitload of money because I went crazy getting adamant armor. And by that I mean, I got 3 pink tails within an hour, and then basically no more dropped after that.
Hey, at least you got those 3, though. Some people have been playing this game since it came out on the Super Nintendo, and they've never seen a pink tail in their lives.
Yeah, I probably used up the next 6 playthroughs worth of luck there. Now, I should stress right now, this is overkill in terms of levels. I think in order for the Lunar Ruins to present a fair challenge, you need to challenge it within your mid to late 60s, and then use whatever natural levels you get from there without obtusely going back and forth throughout it. Now, the Lunar Ruins themselves are a bit odd in terms of structure, in that they're by and large in patterns of 4 floors. The 4th floor in every set is a specific character's trial, the order of which never changes. For instance, the first trial is always going to be Yang, since why he's in my party right now. Second one's always going to be Edward, same reason. But the 3 floors preceding it in most of those are randomly selected from a set of 5 per floor set. There are sometimes new enemies here, but by and large, they're either repeat enemies or repeat maps from prior dungeons. Either way, Goblin Prince, 8,929 HP, 22,000 experience points, 12,000 gil, weak to lightning, can drop X potions, gold hourglasses, the Goblin summon as usual. Weird thing, I think every one of their physical attacks hits 2 members of the party, but otherwise, they die quick, they Goblin.
I find it interesting how in the PSP version, I don't know if this is the case in like the GBA version and others, when an enemy attacks twice, it actually shows the damage they take right there. But in the Super Nintendo version, if there's an enemy that attacks twice, whether it's the same party member or 2 different ones, you actually don't see how much damage they take until they're actually finished attacking.
Yeah, that is a little bit of an odd difference. It makes me wonder if it was just the Super Nintendo couldn't do that much in a certain chain of action, so to speak, without being a fully scripted battle.
I think they changed it in 5. It might have been just because it was early Super Nintendo.
True, because 4 was super early Super Nintendo. Which will forever impress me that they got this soundtrack out of that.
And it's gotta hand it to Uematsu. That man is very experimental.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I should note, because I mentioned that you basically get a random 3 floors per set, I am showing off every floor in an area over the course of the entire post-game. So right now I think we're seeing like Yang, C, D, and E or something like that. But in the top right corner will be I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to notate it right now, but there will be notation saying which character's floor we're on for each one. So you'll have seen them all by the end of these post-game parts.
So that thing you just saw was a Great Marlboro, 12,180 HP, 22,000 XP, 20,000 gil. With no elemental weaknesses, they can drop remedies, Bacchus wine, Soma drops, and mega elixirs. Watch out for bad breath. At least they're not like, other Great Marlboros.
Marlboro Menaces in 10.
Pain.
I don't like automatic ambushes.
Auto ambushes, bad breath, turn 1.
If you don't have certain armor prepped for them, especially in the Omega Ruins, you're just... You're dead.
Unless you get lucky, I guess.
Unless you get lucky. Next new enemy is Echidna, 9,130 HP, 34,000 EXP, 24,000 gil. Weak to Holy, can drop X potions, Vampire Fangs, Lilith Kisses, and Assassin's Vests every now and then. Being undead, I think they take 4 times damage from the Rice Rod randomly enough, I think. And they're immune to Toad and Pig, which I guess are big enough.
Why do you use Porum instead of Rosa?
Partially just to make the party something different. Although, if you are coming in here in the mid to late 60s, Rosa is actually a worse Might Mage at that level than Porum is. Cause not in terms of like the spell count, but in terms of the spirit stat. If I'm recalling, Porum is higher. By the time they reach their 80s, it's more or less balanced, so in my level it doesn't really matter. It's just trying to bring a different party in almost every time I come in here, because you will have to make multiple trips through this place throughout the runs, as even if you bring in characters to do like the first 5 trials in a row, you still gotta leave to do the other 6, or however many there are. In fact, I leave more times than I like to admit to get floors I would have missed otherwise, or to go get a different party for the final super boss at the end of this place.
Yeah.
Either way, welcome to the first trial floor. Trial floors are always denoted by a cave directly to your north, a character's theme playing, like the Fable theme here, as well as a teleport out on the right and a save point on the left. Now, my big recommendations for the first one here, put on Flame Claws, because you're going to have some enemies weak to fire in the next one. And once we actually get in the door, cast Float on your entire party. That's only really going to come in handy during the battle at the end of the trial, but still, it's good to have it ahead of time. The trials, by and large, try to play to each character's characteristics, like this is a training area for Yang's monkdom. But by and large, nothing really happens here in terms of important character stuff, barring one trial. Most of them are just almost Monster of the Week filler format, and yeah, it kind of sucks.
So this looks like you're fighting, oh my god, they're groups of 3 and there's 8 of them, so it looks like you're fighting about 24 of these things, but you're actually fighting 8 enemies and it's just 24 sprites. Good job for not lagging the game with how many sprites are on screen. Square, good job. 6,000 HP, 15,000 experience points, 5,000 gil. These monk warriors are weak to fire. They don't drop anything. Because I think all of these are actually fought in succession.
Yeah. One thing I've remembered in between takes on this, because we've actually had to do this in the next video a couple times at this point, more on why later. I think you can actually just cheese out a win with this if you bring in a Red Fang, because I think that'll deal quad 9s. Also, frame drops like that will be fixed by the end of the post-game, as I realized it was because PPSSPP, at least on the Windows 8 thing, natively output at 10 times resolution. When that causes problems when effects get too flashy. I think later on I fixed it to be like down to 3 or 4 times, which is almost at the video quality we do, visually indistinct. So that gets calmed down.
I think it's also yeah, it's something I've noticed with Final Fantasy Tactics as well. It still happens, but we've figured out that shortcut.
The PSP was such a weird era. Because, like, it was a JRPG machine, like, between all the Final Fantasy ports, Hexes, Force, Crisis Core, and all sorts of others. But it really didn't get that mass appeal that they wanted it to have for some reason. The shitty UMD videos probably didn't help.
Yeah.
I really want to see someone try another, like, actual handheld and not just, like, bank on the Switch's portability. But at this point, I can't help but wonder if we've just moved past that part due to mobile gaming being what it is now.
That is something to consider, isn't it?
Okay, time for the second enemy type. Here we got Super Monks, who I love the color scheme of. I love gold, red, and black. I don't know why, it just works well. 8,000 HP, 18,000 experience points, 8,000 gil, still weak to fire. They're just buffed up versions of the previous guys. Red Fang, I think, will still work here if you decide to bring one.
What's actually an easy way to grab those things? Sometimes they can drop from red dragons, I'm pretty sure, but that's the only one that I can think of.
Diving deep into my brain, and by that I mean the Final Fantasy Wiki here, because I don't remember everything that drops that in this one. Final Fantasy IV?
Red Fang, Fire Elemental. Drop from Bone Dragon, Chimera Brain, Chimera Geist, Flamehound. Version 2, Red Dragon and Bone Dragon can be stolen from Bone Dragon, Chimera Geist, Red Dragon, and Skeleton Dragon. Oh wait, that's in the after years. That's in the after years. Or is it the same in...
By and large, it looks like it's the same enemy set. That is a surprising amount of ways to get Red Fangs.
You can also just use Meteor.
Meteors. When in doubt, throw rocks at things. Everybody dies according to D&D.
Unless it's Final Fantasy IX, and then sometimes they die. Unless it's you, and then you always die.
Yeah. Especially if it's thrown at you by a giant super bouncy ball.
Or a beast, a purple beast. That's happened to me before.
Yeah.
These are the Master Instructors. These are the third and final enemy type. They have 10,000 HP, 20,000 experience points, and 10,000 gil with a fire elemental weakness. I don't think there's actually a way to kill them in one shot, so to speak. So you're always going to be seeing those sprites disappear.
Yeah, because I think for every third of their HP, they lose one of the people on the set. So even if you used a Red Fang, that's quad 9. You're going to need to sit for each of the 2 to disappear. Though I can't remember... Yeah, okay, so they do it multiple times at once. I think in the GBA version, they may have vanished one at a time, but I honestly can't remember. The last time I did GBA post-game was the last time I think I played the GBA version, which is not a game I like to go back to much at all.
Understandable.
I love 4, but by and large, its advanced port got the worst treatment out of all of them, because the bonus content... I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. I think later on I describe, because we only have to redo the early parts, not the later ones. I believe I describe the post-game as flat soda, tastes alright but does nothing new. I think all of the bonus content they add in every other GBA port / remake does. FF5 Advance does great stuff. 6 Advance, Dragon's Cavern, whatever the hell it's called, super cool place. FF1 and 2 even get good stuff. FF4? Not really. And I can't help but wonder if it was the first advanced port they did, so they didn't know exactly what they wanted to do yet, or if it's a matter of the mechanics limited them in such a way that they couldn't figure out anything super interesting to do. And it's not like they could have been like, okay, let's hint towards the after years here or here, because I think by the point FF4 Advance came out, after years wasn't even a thought. They only just coincidentally use the thing from the one trial that involves any kind of plot stuff in After Years.
I'd probably say it's more of the... I mean, I can't imagine that they would have wanted to skip out on 4 like it just happened to. You know, because Square loves Final Fantasy IV. This game has been remade like 4 or 5 times.
I think the only other Final Fantasy that has this many remakes and ports of it is 1. And that's just because of legacy stuff. Either way, time for the big guy. This is Lunar Titan. At the end of every try, you fight a lunar version of a given Eidolon. This is my enemy, right?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Alright, Lunar Titan, 120,000 HP, 65,000 EXP, and gil, no elemental weaknesses. Only drops one thing, which we'll get into in a moment. This fight is pretty standard in terms of setup if you're used to fighting this kind of enemy before. Cast Flow on yourselves if you haven't already to avoid his Earthquake attack, as that's earth elemental damage that's high on the entire party. Use a Spider Silk or Slow at the start to make sure he's not getting too many attacks in. Yang will focus, add an Incessal attack. Rydia should use Flare or Bahamut, either or really. And Porum just uses Kiraga whenever. The biggest danger in this fight is his Crush attack. He uses, I believe, it's semi-random, because that's an instant kill on whoever it hits.
Does it even show like a damage output, or is it just like it just kills?
I think it just kills, but if it doesn't, it just hits for quad 9, because that's a functional instant kill as it is.
Yeah. Because honestly, I think Final Fantasy X is the first game where you actually break an HP cap.
Yeah. The first game you can break any kind of damage cap is 8, technically, through a boosted Eden. but by and large, 10 is the first to say, all right, you can get higher than quad 9 and do higher than quad 9 if you just put the effort in. Admittedly, satisfying to do. It's essential to take out Dark Anima in particular. Ugh.
That's not what people saying no sphere grid would tell you.
No sphere grid run people scare me. They are powerful. Now, the Lunar Eidolons are definitely where the most difficulty in terms of interesting fights comes from in this place, barring 2 obvious encounters. But at my level, they really shouldn't cause too much of a problem, and honestly, some of them shouldn't cause much of a problem in general, because if you remember the strategies from the original fights, by and large, they're the same. Like, Lunar Asura, when we get to her, a little more aggressive, but same general spiel. Lunar Shiva, fire. Lunar Ifrit, use ice. Actually, wait, no, don't use ice. I just remember that he gets a special attack.
I actually...
For beating...
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead first.
Well, I'd say you go ahead first, because it's a quick thing. Mine would be more of a discussion topic.
Okay, true enough. Alright, so... For beating Lunar Titan there, we got the Lunar Titan Summon Book. The Summon Books are items you get 100% of the time from Lunar Eidolons. The Lunar Titan Book deals quad 9 Earth Elemental damage to all ground-bearing enemies. But the more important thing is, we got an accessory there, the Martial Armlet for Yang. You get one of those more or less for every character, sometimes it's just a weapon though, that not only is just a good accessory for their general stat set, like this increases defense and attack a good bit, but it also has a secondary effect in that it changes one of their commands into something else. In this case, it changes Yang's Focus, which doubles damage, into Deadly, which triples damage. It just has a longer charge period. Because of this, more or less every character technically gets a little better with their respective accessory, though there are cases where using other accessories is preferable. And notably, if you go back into that trial again, and while you have the Lunar Titan Summon Book and the Martial Armlet, you instead get I think a Silver Apple for beating Lunar Titan.
So you can get infinite HP.
Yeah, it's a lot of grinding, but you could do it.
Hmm.
I thought, what was the thing you wanted to bring up?
I wanted to bring up the topic of, like, what they could have done to make the Lunar Eidolons more challenging, and I'm thinking about what did they do for the Dark Aeons in Final Fantasy X, just maybe to a bit of a lesser scale. It's like, their attacks are non-elemental, for example, and maybe they hit a little bit harder.
Non-elemental hit harder, probably pre-programmed counterattacks to strategies either they had before, or
and probably getting past
getting
past immunity, or like something similar to like what the Mysterious Girl does in After Years, using negating all effects, like using Black Hole before Mega Flare. Lunar Titan could use Black Hole before using his Quake.
Yeah.
So this enemy is the Sahagan Prince, 12,902 HP, 40,000 XP, 28,000 gil, weak to lightning, and have damage on ice. They drop X potions, cottages, bestiaries, and battle gear, which I think is a Yang equipment.
Yeah, it's one of his better ones. But by and large, I wouldn't say much, if any, of the equipment you get via drops is worth finding around here, as either on some of the chests on the random floors, you can find the best equipment for certain people. Like later on, I think next part, we're going to find the white dress for Rosa, which is her best armor in the game. Later on, you can find Cecil's best armor near the bottom of the Lunar Ruins, things of that kind of thing. And even then, in terms of the weapons, weird little thing about the Lunar Ruins, on 2 sets of floors, there is a town you can get as one of the 5 floors. And both towns have weapon and armor shops, and you can get more or less all those pieces in those shops. Like, I think one of them is the Assassin's Dagger for Palom, which has a chance of instant killing enemies at a physical attack.
Just be careful you're not attacking undead ones like that.
Yeah. That would suck. Oh, I remember this place. Memories.
Edward!
It's weird. Final Fantasy 1 and 4's post-game, or bonus content, so to speak. Well, first off, Lamia Queen, 10,330 HP. 35,000 EXP, 25,000 gil, no elemental weaknesses, Dryad, Kiss of Lilith, Rod of Lilith, and Perseus arrows. Pretty vanilla otherwise, dies quick, too cold. Both FF1 and FF4's bonus dungeons do similar things in that they randomly select from a set of floors. But I think FF1's is largely more interesting in that regard because a lot of the floors you're going to see here are just straight up reused from older dungeons. And I'm never really a fan of reusing stuff like that. I'm thinking particularly of Worlds of Final Fantasy doing that a good bit towards its post-game, and I liked that game, but that post-game got tedious. Ooh, a shitty harp.
Worse than what he's got on.
Yes and no. I believe in terms of stats, it's a little bit stronger. But you only ever have the Requiem harp for this particular area. Because of this enemy here.
Yeah, the apparition. 23,511 HP, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. They can drop Phoenix Downs. I don't even know if they actually do drop anything, though. Like, maybe that's just there to be a placeholder. Because this is a scripted fight.
Yep. I'm not making Cecil attack here. He's just going on Leroy Jenkins on this thing himself. The thing is with the apparitions is you need to kill them once and then use Edward's Bard Song ability to actually end the battle. You're technically supposed to have the Requiem harp on to do this, but as you can see here, I don't have it on, and he was just like, yo, it's gonna work anyway. So I can still have the actual harp I've had on him since the... I can't remember the name of the area they added in GBA that allowed you to upgrade all the other characters, but he still has that harp, and it's... Well, yeah, we just kill it once, then use Bard Song, and the fight's over. This is the only actual apparition fight I'm showing because, by and large, it's the same thing over and over again. You have to do this, like, 15 times throughout the trial, I think?
Yeah. You can still inflict status effects on them, which is very interesting.
Now, out of all of the trials that could have had stuff to do with character, I am surprised they didn't do anything with this one. Because this very well could have been a growing moment for Edward to let go of the fact that he failed Damsian and move forward with his life. But no, it's just, hey, I'm gonna cure your souls. That's it. Bye-bye.
The souls, well, maybe he's quiet, there has to be something symbolic about what he's doing.
Yeah, like, this is one of the few I can actively see symbolism for. Like, this one, I can see something for Rosa's that they could have gone into but didn't. Kane's is the one that actively does go into stuff. And then there's Sid, who you play Crazy Taxi with. By and large, this is probably one of the easier trials, though, because outside of the apparitions, the only other enemy you encounter here is the Lunar Eidolon at the end of it. Otherwise, you're just going straight on through, finding every soul you can, and reaching the end. I should note, you can fail a couple of the trials and still technically clear them. I forget if Edwards is one of these, though, where you can just gun it to the actual Eidolon and just not get his accessory because you didn't cure all the souls. I think that's how that works, at least. Because sometimes they give you a secondary item, sometimes you just get a worse item.
I know about one of those that's like that. It'll be the one that we do after this one.
If I'm recalling at least, though, the only thing you need to do in terms of, like, reaching the final super boss, Future Me will come in with a take that from Phoenix Wright, if I'm wrong about this, though, is just to beat the Eidolons. Take that! Ow! Oh no, the shitty harp is gone. It's a good thing I never equipped it. Time for, if you can't tell by the icy line there, our next Lunar Eidolon, Lunar Shiva, 100,000 HP, 65,000 EXP, and Gil, weak to fire, absorbs ice. By and large, her pattern is pretty standard for Shiva, really. You're going to want a Spider Silk to start off just to get her slow, then go all out as usual. Deadly with Yang. Berserk Edward here because his harp that he has on equipped right now is Fire Elemental, so he'll just get more damage out that way. Rydia should use Faraga because summons just aren't worth as much at this point. Haste Rydia, Yang, and Ed, and then Cecil, if he's not just physically attacking, have him on standby for healing.
I find it really unfortunate that as far as Cecil's magic goes, he's just not that good. It's like, I know he's meant to be a primary attacker, but they could have done him the same justice they did Beatrix. He gets limited, you know, healing magic, but it's really good healing magic.
Yeah, especially Paladins of 14 are by and large technically the best class in terms of like soloing bosses, because they can heal themselves really well. And even like the Knights in FF1 can get some good magic with their level 4 max. But here, Cecil just doesn't get much. Also, I should note, if I'm recalling, I think Lunar Shiva counters spells with Blizzaga on herself to heal for like 3k. But it's not much to worry about. Same with the ability she's charging up for right now, which I believe is Ice Storm. Which, that's an entire party targeting ice attack. But I believe its damage is based off a ratio of her HP, so the more damage she's taken, the less you're gonna take. So if you just pile on, she doesn't get to do much. Kinda sad, really. I'm trying to think what I consider the best post-game in a Final Fantasy game, and by and large, 10s is what comes to mind. Because the Lunar Aeon, the Dark Aeons were all a legitimate challenge. Penance was a slow but satisfying fight. 15s was lackluster. Other GBA versions. 5s was fine, especially because you got to fight an actual lore boss for once. Kaiser Dragon was fine enough in 6. I guess the FF2 one was kind of worth it, but it would require playing FF2 mechanics, and no.
Yeah.
Because did I ever tell you what the post-game is for that? Or like the actual scenario?
No, because we did the NES version, I think.
The new content they added in like a post-game sense for that is a new scenario where you played as all the characters that died along the way, fighting basically the good equivalent to the Emperor's devil form to wipe out gods from the world in general, so that man can once be free.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's like, okay, I see where you were going with it, and I appreciate it. Either way, with Edward and Yang out of the way, that's the only reason I had them in my party, so now I'm going to leave the Lunar Ruins and come back in with the party you're going to see at the start of next part. But with that, we're going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 2, more trials. See you guys then.